Welcome to California Unearthed. I'm in Mount Shasta City today at the Mount Shasta Memorial Park, here to visit a Major League Baseball player that you may or may not recognize. The name Charles Risberg. He was from the 1919 White Sox, or as many of us know, the 1919 Black Sox. That's right, he was one of the 8 players banned from baseball for rigging the 1919 World Series, and he's buried here in Mount Shasta. He was born in 1894 in San Francisco, but passed away in 1975 in Red Bluff, California, some 90 miles south of where he's buried here. So let's go take a look at his grave and talk a little bit about the history of Charles Risberg. He is right over here, buried here with his wife Mary. And if you come to visit him, he is right in front of the mausoleums here at the Memorial Park. And if we take a look around, say hi to Jeremy for us.
Jeremy Tuggle, exploring Shasta County history.
This is a beautiful cemetery out here in Mount Shasta. This is my first time here. And Jeremy Tuggle and I are out exploring not only Shasta County history, but baseball history. Once again, beautiful Mount Shasta there today. Charles August Risberg was born on October 13, 1894 in San Francisco. He was the youngest of 3 children to Swedish parents Charles Peter and Hansine Risberg. Tragically, Charles lost his mother in 1902 when he was just 8 years old. The Risberg family resided in the North Beach area of San Francisco, where they experienced and survived the Great Earthquake of 1906. Charles showed a natural talent for baseball as a young man. In 1912, at the age of 17, Charles secured a spot with the Vernon Tigers with the Pacific Coast League during spring training. He pitched only 2 games for the Tigers that year, but in 1913, he played in the minor leagues for Spokane, Washington in the Northwestern League before moving on to Ogden, Utah in the Union Association. During this time, he was converted from pitcher to shortstop and earned another chance with the Vernon Tigers at the end of the season. During this time with the Vernon Tigers, Charles married Agnes Garibaldi, a young woman from his San Francisco neighborhood, on November 10, 1915. They were blessed with 2 children, Charles Peter, born on December 31st of 1916, and Lawrence Albert, born on October 22nd, 1919. After 2 seasons, 1915 and 16, playing first, second, shortstop, and occasionally pitching for the Vernon Tigers, former Chicago White Sox pitcher and Vernon Tigers manager Doc White highly praised Risberg and recommended him to the White Sox owner Charles Comiskey, who had first right of refusal on all Tiger players at the time. Comiskey purchased Risberg's contract for $4,000. At the age of 22 years old, standing at 6 feet tall and weighing 175 pounds, Charles August Swede Risberg became the starting shortstop for the 1917 Chicago White Sox. In his rookie year, Risberg struggled at the plate, batting just .203 with 1 home run in 149 games. This performance led manager Pants Rowland to have to bench him at the end of the season. However, Risberg did make 2 pitch hit appearances during the 1917 World Series championship over the New York Giants. Charles was deeply homesick for California and had very little interest in the major leagues, particularly due to the poor treatment of the players by the corrupt Charles Comiskey. Risberg preferred playing with the Pacific Coast League, which was reflective in his poor performance with the White Sox. This period also marked the beginning of his emotional breakdown, which led to the physical altercation with umpires while he was a utility player. In the 1918 season, Risberg improved slightly, batting .256 with 1 home run in 82 games. At the end of the season, he would return to San Francisco and take a job at the shipyards and play for the Shipyard Ball Club, possibly to avoid the World World War I draft. In the 1919 season, Risberg rejoined the White Sox, signing a 2-year contract worth $3,250 a season, making him the lowest paid starter on the team. During the season, Risberg batted .256 with 2 home runs, 19 stolen bases in 119 games. During the infamous 1919 World Series against the Cincinnati Reds, Risberg struggled, only going 2 for 25 and committing 4 critical errors. In that world-famous 1919 Black Sox World Series scandal, Charles Risberg was the youngest of 8 players involved in throwing the World Series. Risberg allegedly received between $5,000 to $10,000 for his role in the conspiracy, significantly less than he or any of the other players were promised. Although all 8 men were acquitted of conspiracy or any wrongdoing in a 1921 jury trial, baseball commissioner and federal judge Crenshaw Mountain Landis banned Risberg and the other 7 players from Major League Baseball and Minor League Baseball. This was a lifetime ban. Charles ended his Major League career with 394 hits, 196 runs scored, 6 home runs, 175 runs batted in, and batting .243. Despite their ban, all these men wanted to do was play ball. Risberg and a few of the others found a way around the ban and were able to make a living playing baseball for independent semi-pro teams, which actually Risberg preferred. In 1922, Risberg's first wife, Agnes Garibaldi, decided she could no longer tolerate his nomadic lifestyle and filed for divorce, citing cruelty and neglect. Agnes mentioned that the relationship was happy when Charles Risberg played in the Pacific Coast League, but it deteriorated during his Major League career, once again highlighting the turmoil caused by Charles Comiskey in Major League Baseball. The divorce was finalized in December of 1922, and Agnes received custody of their 2 boys, dealing yet another blow to Charles. While in the midst of his divorce, Risberg and a few of the other band players formed a traveling team called the Black Sox and toured the northern Midwest playing exhibition games against semi-pro teams from Minnesota, Iowa, and Mesba Range Leagues, where Risberg returned to the pitching mound. Risberg would move on to Minnesota, where on January 14, 1924, he would marry his second wife, Mary Frances Purcell, from Rochester, with whom he had 2 sons, Robert Lawrence, born on November 29, 1925, and Gerald, born in 1933. During Risberg's 11 years as an outlaw ballplayer, he ended up managing a small farm, selling eggs and other goods to the nearby Mayo Clinic. Additionally, he attempted to support his income by owning a car dealership, a hotel, and a miniature golf course. Unfortunately, all these ventures failed due to the Great Depression. In 1932, Risberg played his last season in the Midwest, and that was for the Sioux Falls, South Dakota Canaries. His post-baseball life was marked with resilience and a continuous effort to find new ways to support himself and his family, starting with a move back to the West Coast, settling in Klamath Falls, Oregon from 1934 to 1936. In 1936, they would relocate to Siskiyou County. There, Risberg owned and operated the Kings Club in Edgewood, California, just 3 miles north of Weed. He also had a thriving tavern called Risberg's Tavern, located in Butte, which is now Southern Weed, which he sold to David Bast in August of 1950. The Risberg's 2 sons, Robert and Gerald, also known as Mickey, attended Weed High School throughout the 1940s. Robert was a track star for Weed High School and graduated in 1944, whereas Mickey played ball as first baseman at Weed High School, Shasta College, Chico State, and several semi-pro teams in Northern California, including the Mount Shasta Seals, Weed Sons of Italy, and the Twin City Giants.
In 1951, Charles and Mary's youngest son, Gerald, graduates from Weed High School, and the Risberg family moves down here to Project City in Shasta County and purchased the Pines Motel, which sat on Old Highway 99 between what is now Oasis and Pine Grove, and today it is Twin View Boulevard. And I'm standing right here where the motel used to sit. It was 3 buildings and a half-moon driveway, and you can still see that half-moon driveway right here behind me. Now, I don't know exactly when the Risbergs purchased this motel. I don't know if it was right after they moved down here or right before, but what I do know is looking at the 1944-1947 topo maps, there are 3 buildings in this driveway on those maps. So I know that this motel existed in the early 1940s. Whether the Risbergs built it way back then or bought it later, I'm not quite sure. But what I do know is when they sold it, and that was in the late summer, early fall of 1951. They sold it to Glenn and Geraldine Whitney, and the Whitney family owned it for many, many years. In 1965, the Whitney family turned these motel rooms or cabins into gift shops. I-5 was now built, the traffic was no longer coming down Old Highway 99, and they needed a new way to make money and get revenue, and so they created gift shops out of these 3 cabins. So let's go take a look around here. So if we walk around the Half Moon driveway here, this is where the cabins sat out here. That's pretty cool.
Sadly, Charles's wife, Mary Risberg, would pass away on October 10th, 1960 in Mount Shasta City. In 1970, Charles would move from Mount Shasta to Red Bluff to be with his son Robert, who was the tax collector for Tehama County at the time. Charles August Swede Risberg sadly would pass away on his 81st birthday on October 13th, 1975 in the convalescent hospital in Red Bluff, California.
If you guys have ever seen the movie Field of Dreams or 8 Men Out, those 2 movies are about the 1919 Black Sox, and Charles's name is mentioned in both films.
The film 8 Men Out came out in 1988 and was based off of a book by the same name written by Elliot Asanoff, and Field of Dreams came out a year later in 1989. But what was funny about Field of Dreams, Charles Risberg played the catcher in that movie, a position I don't believe he ever played.
Well, that's it for this video from Mount Shasta Memorial Park in Mount Shasta, California. I know it's a short video, but I hope you guys enjoyed it as much as I did. As always, if you did, smash the like button, subscribe if you haven't subscribed. We'll see you guys on the next adventure.